Good afternoon and welcome into Crunch Time here on ASTV Productions. I am Wags alongside Joe Hamilton and Scott Tobin, joining us from his car because he's a busy man and has a lot of stuff to do, but he is kind enough to join us from the car today as we talk the NFL draft. Gentlemen, how was your weekend? It was beautiful. St. Louis Cardinals swept the Cincinnati Reds. The Blues got a big-time victory over the Colorado Avalanche on Saturday. And it was a pretty nice weekend after the rain on Saturday. How'd you guys enjoy that, and what are you looking forward to this week?
It was a good weekend, man. We swept the Reds, so that was exciting for Cardinals fans. Crazy Monday, as usual. Well, why I'm in my car right now, but at least I'm saving you from having to look at me while we're doing this. So I just wanted to jump on and get at least do the draft with you guys. I don't know how long I'll be able to stick around, but at least maybe we can go through the draft real quick this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great weekend. I went to the game Friday night. I was a little worried about the Cardinal bullpen, but they got the job done, and they looked good all weekend. They actually could score runs for more than one day, so I was happy about that. Yes, it was a great weekend. You had the Blues winning too. You know what? I'll take a little rain if I get this kind of weather. I mean, it's beautiful outside, man.
That it is. And yeah, Scott, we're going to roll through this NFL draft preview here so you can get as much input as possible because there's a lot of stuff that's going on around the NFL draft. We're not talking about just the picks that are going to be made. There's also a bunch of rumors going around. Obviously, it's a smokescreen from a lot of teams. You're just trying to get people to essentially make some mistakes or make some assumptions or what have you, trying to get the best out of what you can get as well. So there's a lot of rumors going around. We'll talk a little bit about those as well. But let's go ahead and start off by kind of running through our mock draft, the 32 teams, the 32 picks that are going to be going down on Thursday night with the first round on ESPN. I tell you what, everybody thinks and pretty much assumes that Trevor Lawrence is the presumptive number one pick overall going to Jacksonville. You got Urban Meyer taking over as the head coach of the Jags. A little surprised that Justin Fields isn't in the conversation considering Urban Meyer essentially brought him to Ohio State, or is it just a matter of Trevor Lawrence is just that much better? And really, is he your guys' number one pick?
Yeah, I have Trevor Lawrence going number one, and I think that's why Urban Meyer took that Jacksonville job to work with Trevor Meyer, I'm combining their names, to work with Trevor Lawrence because he is, a generational talent. So, yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence is definitely the number one pick.
I got Trevor Lawrence going number one as well, and I kind of wanted to get your guys' opinion on something. I read something from Trevor Lawrence himself. He doesn't need football to prove his worth. What do you guys think he means by that statement?
Exactly what he said, and he came back and kind of clarified and said, I love football. I love to compete. I want to win, but I don't have to win a Super Bowl to prove my worth to anybody. And I think that's a great statement that the kid realizes that football is not the end all be all. He's going to work his butt off. He's going to do everything to win. But in the end, he realizes there's other things more important than football to prove who you are.
That's a great sentiment too. I mean, it just shows you what kind of man he is. It shows you what kind of program he came from out of Clemson. The coach at Dabo Swinney is. He is a Dabo Swinney guy, and to be that, and to have a guy like Urban Meyer as now your next head coach, it definitely continues the tradition and continues his legacy that he's going from one good coach to another good coach, and one great man to another great man. And yeah, you can sit there and say, and honestly, I'm gonna kind of be devil's advocate on this. He knows he's going to Jacksonville. He knows that the Jaguars probably will not win a Super Bowl in the next, probably 3 to 4 years. So he's basically sitting there saying, I know I'm not going to win a Super Bowl. So I'm not going to judge me by not winning a Super Bowl because I'm on a crappy team. Don't judge me because I'm not winning a Super Bowl because I'm on a crappy team. I'm much better than that, but the team around me is going to be crappy, so you can't really judge me on that. So that's kind of where I see it as far as Trevor Lawrence is concerned. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but like I said, I'm always kind of playing devil's advocate and looking at it and going, yeah, maybe he just knows that he's going to be on a crappy team, and that he can't, people can't look at his statistics and say, oh, well, he's a bad quarterback because he plays for Jacksonville. Maybe becoming the St. Louis Jaguars at some point, but that's a story for a different day. We're going to have Derek King on sometime in the next week or so to talk about that potential as well. So make sure you tune in for that. All right, let's move on to the number 2 pick, because the number 1 pick was obviously presumptive. At number 2, you got the New York Jets. The New York Jets traded Sam Darnold to Carolina in the offseason. Obviously, they got a new coaching staff there as well. I've gone with Zach Wilson, BYU quarterback, at number 2. It seems like that's pretty much the consensus pick as well. Do you guys see Zach Wilson, the quarterback, going to the Jets at number 2?
Yeah, Zach Wilson's the number 2 pick. He's going to go there. There's some people in the last couple of weeks said maybe he should be number 1 instead of Trevor Lawrence because of the year he had. I've still got a lot of questions about Zach Wilson, but I think he is the number 2 pick. What about you, Joe?
I think Zach Wilson is the number 2 pick. He's easily the second best quarterback in this draft. There are some interesting quarterbacks in this draft, but yeah, Zach Wilson is your number 2 pick.
And that moves us on to number 3, the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this was a pick that was originally held by the Houston Texans, which in turn got traded to Miami Dolphins, which in turn, just a few weeks ago, a blockbuster trade with the 49ers sent that pick to San Francisco, with Miami moving down and then back up. And it was a whole thing within like a half-hour time frame, between Miami and Philadelphia and San Francisco moving all around. But at this point right now, the 49ers have landed at that number 3 pick. And when that trade was made, a lot of people were sitting there going, yes, it's going to be a quarterback. The 49ers are done with Jimmy G. They really don't have anybody in the pipeline. They are going after a quarterback. And yes, you're not going to get a Lawrence, and you're probably not going to get a Zach Wilson, but there are other options at that point. You've got Trey Lance, you've got Mac Jones, you've got Justin Fields. There's 3 guys that they can pick from. And for me, I really, really, really wanted to put Trey Lance in this spot. I really like what Lance has done. Yes, he's not playing against superior talent like the SEC or the Big 12 or the Big 10, but he's done a lot at North Dakota State, and I really like him. But I look at who the coach of the 49ers are in Kyle Shanahan, and I don't see him taking that risk. I see him going after a guy that plays in a big conference, that has proven himself and is a solid, bigger guy. So I know it's not a sexy pick, but I'm going with Mac Jones out of Alabama for the 49ers. I think he fits the Kyle Shanahan system well. It's a guy that Shanahan likes. I wouldn't be shocked if they went with a guy like Trey Lance, but I think Mac Jones is going to be their quote-unquote safe pick in that spot. I don't know about you guys, but that's who I'm going with.
Yeah, I took Mac Jones as well. I don't think he's the number 3 quarterback necessarily, but I think you're right. I think he fits what San Francisco wants to do. They're going to play safe on offense. They're going to use George Kittle. They're going to go back to that West Coast offense in a lot of ways. So I think that's where Mac Jones fits in best, and I think he is going to San Francisco.
Yeah, I think he's going to San Francisco as well. And I'm wondering, I want to get Scott's take on this. How long will it take a Mac Jones to become a starting NFL quarterback?
I don't think it's going to take very long because he played in Alabama in a pro-style offense. I don't think it takes him very long. The question is, what does San Francisco do with Jimmy G? I mean, if Garoppolo's there, then I think Jones sits for a year or so. If San Francisco decides to trade him, maybe over the weekend, then you may see Mac Jones be the starter in Week 1. And I think he can be. I think he's that prepared to play in an NFL system.
I agree as well. And the other part of the reason why I put Jones in that spot is he does have a little bit of that Jimmy G look too. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Garoppolo, not exclusively, but it's a familiarity thing with them as well. They're able to install him into the Shanahan system with probably not a lot of changes because they already have a quarterback there that has played it. They're not having to adjust to this guy's style and strengths. His strengths fit the system that Jimmy G's played in. Just Mac Jones reminds you at all of Jimmy Garoppolo?
A little bit. I can see some similarities, although I think Jones is just a little bit more polished coming out of college. Like I said, playing in that Alabama system, playing big time games. He's battle tested, pro style system. So I think he's a little bit more polished than Jimmy G was coming out of college.
I would have to agree with that, and I never quite understood the term "polished" in the NFL. With these kids coming out of the draft because they haven't played a pro snap yet. You know what I mean? Who knows?
But they're playing a pro style system in college.
Okay.
That's more of what it's like. They've got the maturity. They've played in that system. So going into the NFL, yes, you're playing against bigger, faster, stronger guys. You're going up against the best players at every position, whereas in college you don't have that. But if you're confident in the system that you're running, you're not having to A, learn a new system, and then B, apply that to the best of the best. You're already comfortable in that system. You look good in it. And now it's a matter of just taking that and going up and adjusting to the players you're going up against. I think that's where the polished part comes in. It's not so much, they're going to go out there and just absolutely light it up. They're having to think less about less things. They can focus more on the one thing of how to go about beating the best of the best versus learning a new system and then figuring out how to apply it against some of the best players in the league week in and week out. I think that's where you're looking at that. So, all right, let's move on to the fourth pick. You got the Atlanta Falcons. Wow, have they fallen since that Super Bowl against the Patriots? We won't talk about the score, but we all know what the score was. Who do you guys see going at number 4 to the Atlanta Falcons?
You can go first this time, Joe.
I got Trey Lance going there because you don't know how long Matt Ryan is going to be there. And not to mention, there are some rumblings out there that Julio Jones gets dealt. So I think it could be a changing of the guard in Atlanta. I go Trey Lance.
Okay. I am going to say that I think it's very possible that Julio Jones does get traded, but I think they're going to go get Matt Ryan, the best receiving option that they can to fill that spot. And I think the tight end from Florida, I think Kyle Pitts goes to Atlanta at number 4.
A lot of pundits have Kyle Pitts going to Atlanta, and obviously they've had success with the tight end position there. Tony Gonzalez, just to name the one guy, but they've had some good success with the tight ends. They need a guy to replace the Hayden Hurst that's not there anymore, so I like that pick. Now, this is where I threw a wrench into the system. I actually have a trade here with the Atlanta Falcons, and part of that is because of the fact that Julio Jones might be leaving as well. And I look at Denver. They are in the need of potentially a quarterback because I actually do have Trey Lance going there at number 4, but I've got the Denver Broncos trading up to that 4th spot, giving Atlanta the 9, 40, and 119 pick to move into that spot and pick Trey Lance. Obviously, they're looking for someone to put pressure on Drew Lock. There are still some potential trades for active quarterbacks out there as well. We talked a little bit about what could be in play. We'll get into that in a little bit, but there are some active quarterbacks that might be options for the Denver Broncos. But in my mock draft, I have them moving up. Yes, it's a little bit of a stretch to sit there and say they're going to move up from 9 to 4 to pick Lance, but there are some teams behind them that are looking for quarterbacks as well. And I think John Elway and that group, they want to make sure they get the guy that they're looking for. It's an excitable guy, someone that has some close ties to the Colorado area, playing up in North Dakota, so there's some potential fandom there as well. So I've got Atlanta trading down to number 9. We'll get to that pick for me in a little bit, but I do have Trey Lance going. It's just to the Denver Broncos. Looking at the 5th pick, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, Joe Burrow coming off of the major knee injury. I've got Penei Sewell from Oregon going to the Bengals. Obviously, you need to protect Joe Burrow at all costs, especially coming off of the injury. Yeah, they probably do need some more help at the wide receiver position, but you're not going to be able to get the ball to the wide receivers if your quarterback's on his back. So Sewell is the guy I'm going with out of Oregon.
I'm going Sewell as well because, I mean, it's obvious. You don't want to see another injury like that from Joe Burrow, that Joe Burrow sustained. So, yeah, you got to beef up that offensive line for sure.
I went the same way. Sewell, he's the best offensive lineman in the draft. He's been the best offensive lineman in college the last couple of years, even though he actually sat out last year for Oregon, didn't play because of the COVID thing. But he's been the top offensive lineman the last couple of years in college football. So, yeah, he goes to Cincinnati.
All right, that's we're all in agreement there. Now you've got one of the picks that was traded earlier this month with Miami getting the 6th pick from Philadelphia. In my mind, they have to go with a wide receiver here. You've got a couple of options. You've got Jamar Chase. You've got Devonta Smith, as well as Jalen Waddle at that spot. For me, I'm going with some familiarity. I'm going with the Heisman winner. I'm going with Alabama's Devonta Smith. I know he's a little bit undersized, but I think he gives Tua that familiar target to throw to, gives Miami some speed. And I look at Miami, I look at Brian Flores, and I sit there and go, he knows what wins because he came from New England, and Alabama's a proven winner in college football. Why not bring that base and bring it to Miami and just try and recreate that? So I've got Smith going to Miami at number 6.
All right. I have another wide receiver coming. He's also from the SEC, but I went a little farther west. I went to LSU. I'm going with the bigger wide receiver in Jamar Chase going there. I think he's the big target that Tua's going to need.
I got Devonta Smith going to the Miami Dolphins, and while he's undersized, like you guys talked about, he's little guys are elusive, and they can go up and get those grabs if they need to. So, yeah, I got Devonta Smith going to Miami.
Okay, and see, now I do like Jamar Chase. I think he's going to be a very, very good receiver in the National Football League, and I actually have him going at the number 7 spot to the Detroit Lions. Matthew Stafford would have loved to throw to Chase because he kind of reminds you a little bit of Megatron, but he's now in LA with the Rams. So, Mr. Goff, this is your chance to show us what you can do with a big-time wide receiver. So I'm going with Jamar Chase out of LSU to the Detroit Lions. Joe, what do you got?
I'm going Jamar Chase also, and they need a big time weapon there. It's been a while since Megatron retired, and they just need a changing of the guard, and it's sad it's taking this long. So I got Chase going there. What about you, Scott?
And right, Scott, I actually have a trade there.
Oh, okay. Who do you got?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I actually have a trade there. I have the Broncos jumping up and switching with the spots with the Lions, and I have the Broncos taking their quarterback. I have them going with Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields in that spot.
Okay. So we each have had trades made with the Broncos to get them a quarterback. I don't see that being the wrong choice for Denver. It's so weird that they drafted a quarterback a couple years ago in Drew Lock, and now they're already looking for another one. But as of right now, they feel like he needs the pressure to be put on him. And for you, Justin Fields seems to be the guy. Once again, I think Justin Fields is a guy that's a little bit underrated. He definitely is looked at as somebody that should get a shot, but definitely doesn't in a lot of instances. So seeing him possibly going to Denver might be a very, very interesting scenario. Scott's had to drop out. Actually, I think I got Scott coming back in. So, all right, Scott, you back with us? Well, we'll see if we can get Scott back here in just a moment. But let's move on to that number 10. The number 8 pick. Carolina Panthers are on the clock now. And in my draft, somehow Kyle Pitts is still available, and Carolina has had much success with guys like Greg Olsen at that tight end position. And I look at them having Christian McCaffrey and then drafting Kyle Pitts, and all of a sudden they have a Steve Smith, Greg Olsen combination that they haven't had in a while. Gives Teddy Bridgewater, if he's still the quarterback, or Sam Darnold, if he's still the quarterback, some good options. So I'm going with Kyle Pitts out of Florida.
I'll go with Kyle Pitts out of Florida, too. This was a pick I had a little bit of a problem with because they need help on defense as well. I mean, that Carolina team was not good last year on defense. So I'm just going to go Kyle Pitts to Carolina.
Okay, you guys ready for this? Here's my second trade in the draft. The Chicago Bears jump up, and they take a quarterback. They take Trey Lance out of North Dakota State with that 8th pick in the draft.
Wow. I mean, it's not something that's out of the realm of possibilities. Is there any concern that you would have the same situation that you had with Mitchell Trubisky there? Now, obviously, Trey Lance has a lot more college experience than Trubisky did coming out of there, but almost the same kind of style, maybe a little bit more accurate as a passer. But is there any worry that excitement level and the potential of him flaming out is on the minds of the Bears at all making that trade?
I think this GM and head coach know they have to make a huge move here. You know, there was all the rumors during the offseason that they were in on, Russell Wilson and they were in on Deshaun Watson. They couldn't pull off either one of those trades. They let Trubisky go. Fans in Chicago are not very excited about the prospect of Andy Dalton being their starting quarterback. So I think they need this big bust, or not bust. They need this big burst of excitement with Trey Lance. He's got a big arm, and I think he would be a guy that could play in Soldier Field with the wind that blows in that stadium. I think he's a good pick for the Bears, honestly.
I don't see that being outside of the realm of possibility. I would like to see Trey Lance this close to St. Louis. I can tell you that much. I'd love to be able to go up to a Bears game and watch him play because he does have a lot of excitement that he could bring to a team into this league. So, I'm fine with that pick. That's going to be interesting to see what they would have to give up as far as picks are concerned or potential players. But that would be a really interesting pick there. If Chicago were to trade up with Carolina. All right, now we've got the number 9 pick, which originally was the Denver Broncos. From my perspective, I had them trading up to Atlanta's pick at 4. So for me, the Falcons are there at number 9. And because of those Julio Jones rumors and the fact that Devontae Smith and Jamar Chase are now off the board, I'm going with Jalen Waddle out of Alabama to kind of shore up that wide receiver core, just a cheaper replacement for the Julio Jones trade that's going to happen very much after June 1st. So I'm going with Jalen Waddle out of Alabama for Atlanta at number 9. But you guys, Joe, you still have Denver at 9, and I know Scott has Detroit at 9. So, Joe, who do you have the Broncos picking there?
I have the Broncos taking a quarterback, but I have them taking Justin Fields.
Okay. I mean, we've all said it that, the reason that we've made our moves is because they are going after a quarterback. So if he falls to them at number 9, it makes sense. So if that's the case, Justin Fields, not a bad choice. Two of us have Justin Fields going to him. I've got Trey Lance going to them. So they all of us have a quarterback going to Denver, just at different varying levels. And then Scott, you've got the Detroit Lions at number 9. Who do you have going to Detroit?
I have Detroit bucking the offensive picks in the first round. I have him taking the linebacker out of Penn State, the best defensive player in the draft, possibly. Micah Parsons going to Detroit with that 9 pick.
That's a great pick. I mean, there was a rumor going around that there will be no defensive players taken in the first round this year, which I think is absolutely bogus. I mean, there's just no way that a team doesn't take at least one defensive player in the first round, as we're actually getting to a point where now we might see some defensive players go. But Micah Parsons, one of the best players in the draft, and Detroit really does need to shore up that defense. They need help everywhere, but they have at least a little bit of a semblance of offense that if you can get a good defense out of that, especially in the NFC North where you're not entirely sure what offense you're going to see week in and week out from some of these other teams. But if you can just make some moves to disrupt those offenses, then you have a good chance of winning that division. So I like that pick of Micah Parsons there at number 9 for Detroit. All right, now the one that everybody's interested in, America's team, the Dallas Cowboys at number 10. This is where I started my defensive picks. I've got them going after the best cornerback in the draft, and that's Patrick Surtain II. I think he's a guy that the Cowboys need. They need someone that can shut down that backfield of the secondary area. And I think he's going to be the guy, and he's going to make a name for himself even bigger than he had in Alabama. I think he's going to do that in Dallas. So I've got Patrick Surtain II going to the Cowboys at number 10.
So do I. I mean, that would be a fun pick for the Dallas Cowboys, and they need to shore up their defense there. So, yeah, that's a great pick.
And, Scott, who do you have going to Dallas at 10? Oh, I think we may have lost Scott again. All right, well, if we get him back, we will go back to talk about Dallas with him, but we'll move on to pick number 11. The New York Giants are on the clock. Obviously, they are a team that has shored up their offense a little bit, but I think that they still need to get that offensive line shored up. So for me, I'm going with the offensive lineman out of Northwestern, Rashawn Slater, as protection for Daniel Jones and open up holes for a potentially healthy Saquon Barkley. So I'm going with Rashawn Slater at number 11 for the Giants. Scott, if you're with us, if you want to go back to the Dallas pick, let us know who you think that Dallas is going with at number 10, and then throw out your number 11 pick for the New York Giants as well.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for the Cowboys, I went with Patrick Surtain as well. I was right there with you. I think he's the best corner in the country, and I think that's who Dallas needs, although Jerry's really interested in Pitts, the tight end. I hope he doesn't screw this draft up again for Cowboys fans. And then going to the Giants, I think they need to fix their defensive line. I went with the defensive end out of Michigan, Kwity Paye.
All right, Scott going with Kwity Paye out of Michigan. So that's a pretty big pick right there. Joe, who do you have going to the Giants?
I have them shoring up their defense. I got Caleb Farley heading to New York. Heading to New York.
Okay. What was the reasoning behind that one?
Just, we always talk about their offense, and defense wins games. Defense is going to be the thing that wins that division. If you have a good enough defense, because Lord knows there aren't any great offenses in that division, so you need to show up your defense. So that's why I went with Farley there. Okay,
no, nothing wrong there. I mean, obviously we saw what Washington was able to do to win that division and almost take Tampa Bay out before they ended up knocking them out late in that wild card game. So yeah, defense is definitely what is going to win championships. All right, let's move on to the number 12 pick. This is Philadelphia. This was from Miami via San Francisco. Once again, part of that big day of dealing a couple of weeks ago. At that 12 spot, you got the Eagles. Joe, who do you have going to Philadelphia?
I have Rashawn Slater going to Philadelphia, and you need to protect. If Jalen Hurts is your guy, you need to protect him. I feel like a quarterback is only as good as his offensive line because he needs time back there.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to. You protect your quarterback, and you've got a chance to win. Scott, who do you got going to the Eagles?
The Eagles, we all know, had tons of problems keeping wide receivers healthy. So I think they're going to restock their wide receivers. I think they're going to Alabama. I think Jalen Waddle. I think he's a prototypical Eagles wide receiver, a little bit bigger, fast, good hands. So I think Jalen Waddle goes to Philly.
Not a bad pick. And actually, originally I had that being the case. I had a couple of other moves that were made. And then about a half hour ago, I'm like, you know what? I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to have a trade at that spot because I think New England is going to pull the trigger. I think they're going to see, at least in my draft, that you're going to see a guy like Justin Fields fall a little bit. and number 12 is going to come up, and Bill Belichick's going to be like, yeah, I kind of need somebody. So they're going to deal the 15 and 96 picks to Philadelphia to move up to number 12, and I've got them picking Justin Fields, quarterback out of Ohio State, at number 12. That's where I see Fields going. So for us, we've got 4 of those quarterbacks now gone after 12 picks, and now we move on to pick 13 with the LA Chargers. Once again, you talk about protecting your quarterbacks, and for me, it's Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech, the offensive lineman. Justin Herbert is the real deal, and you don't want to see what happened to Joe Burrow happen to Justin Herbert, so you do whatever you can to shore up that offensive line and protect him at all costs. So I got Darrisaw from Virginia Tech going to the Chargers at 13. Joe?
I actually got Jalen Waddle going there, and I say that because you see how dynamic Herbert is. Just imagine how dynamic that duo would be. It would almost be, and I hate to put comparisons on them before they're even drafted, but it could be a Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams kind of situation.
It could be, but I mean, you just said one pick earlier. You got to protect your quarterback and not let him be on his ass, pretty much. And
I think they shore that up later in the draft, though.
Oh, then that's fine. That's why there's more than just one round. But if Jalen Waddle is there, yeah, I think they'd be idiotic not to pick him. I would just be shocked if he's actually there at pick 13. But if he is, I don't think that's a bad pick. Scott? Oh, we may have lost Scott again. Once again, he's on his phone, driving from work, so we may get him in and out, so we'll have to keep an ear out for him. Let's move on to the next pick, number 14. We got the Minnesota Vikings. Earlier, Scott had moved Kwity Paye to the New York Giants. This is where I think he falls in my mock draft. He falls to Minnesota. Obviously, the Vikings D took a big step back last year. They really need to get back to their style. Danielle Hunter, I'm not sure what his situation and future there is in Minnesota. So right now, if you draft Paye, you're either drafting his replacement or you're drafting a guy that's going to pair with him for the next few years and really make that Minnesota Vikings defense dynamic in my mind again, back from a few years ago. So I got Kwity Paye going to the Minnesota Vikings. Joe, who do you got going there for the Vikes?
I got Vera Tucker from USC going to the Vikings. I think that'd be an awesome pick from their perspective. They need a lot of help, Wags. It's not just going to be an easy fix for them. They have a couple good receivers still, but I think they're a few pieces away from even being competitive in that division.
I can see that being the case as well. Once again, just coming back to protecting the quarterback and drafting an inside linebacker or inside offensive lineman is not a bad choice there. Got to keep Kirk Cousins up and safe and give him time to make those passes. So, I could see that being the case as well. All right, now we're moving on to the next pick. That's going to be the New England Patriots, at least in your guys' draft at number 15. Joe, who do you have going to the Patriots at 15?
I have Micah Parsons actually going to the New England Patriots. I was wondering, are you shocked that he, in my mind, has dropped in the draft? I know you guys had him going earlier, but are you shocked in my draft he dropped from where you guys had him going?
Well, I actually have him going a little bit further down in my mock draft. So, no, I'm not surprised. Yeah. We talked about the fact that a lot of offensive players are available. A lot of teams have to shore up that offensive line to protect their quarterbacks, especially these teams that are drafting quarterbacks over the last couple of years. And then you've got high-end wide receiving talent as well. So, no, it's not a surprise that he would drop. It's not so much an indication of his ability and his talent. It's just a matter of there's so many guys that address key positions for some of these teams ahead of the teams that are looking at him. In your case, New England. So it's not a surprise. It's not a detriment to him. It's going to hurt him in the pocketbook for sure. But it's not so much a testament to his skills or who he is. I think it's just a matter of there are a lot of really good offensive talents ahead of him and teams looking to shore up their offensive lines.
All right. I was questioning that because I know Scott had him going earlier. So I don't know if we can hear him or not, or he can hear us, but I would like to get his thoughts on that since he had him going earlier.
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Fellas?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I've been able to hear you guys the whole time. So I don't know why you haven't been able to hear me, but yeah, I've been here the whole time.
Well, hey, real quick then, let's go back to the Chargers pick. Who did you have going to the Chargers, and then who did you have going to the Vikings?
Chargers, I went with the other Alabama receiver. I had Devontae Smith going to the Chargers, and then I had the offensive tackle out of Northwestern going to the Vikings and Rashawn Slater.
Okay, and then we're up to New England now. Joe went with Micah Parsons. You've obviously had him going to Detroit earlier. Who do you have the Patriots going at 15, or do you have them trading out of that spot?
Nope, I've got them working Belichick's and defense.
Oh, I think he muted himself, possibly, because he was in the middle of it, and I lost him. Scott, if you can hear us still, unfortunately, it looks like you cut out in the middle of that, but hopefully we can get you back in. For me, this is where Philadelphia and New England had actually swapped places, and I'm going to go a little bit off the board a little bit here because there seems to always be at least one of those picks in the first round where you go, oh, that's interesting. And for Philadelphia, we talked a little bit about the fact that they do need some wide receiver help. They've had a lot of injuries when it comes to the wide receivers and on their offensive talent level. So I actually went with a guy that's getting a lot of buzz. He's in some instances, he is now credited with being the fourth best receiver available, even though right now in a lot of rankings, he's 10th. He's just got a lot of buzz recently. I'm going with Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss going to Philadelphia at that pick where New England was at. Just somebody that's going to need to boost their playmaking ability, their wide receiver core. So I'm going with him there. And then, Scott, it looks like we got you back. You were in the middle of talking about your pick for New England. Who do you have going at 15?
Yeah, I took the cornerback out of Northwestern, Greg Newsome, to help shore up that Patriots defense.
Okay. All right. Not a bad pick there as well. That defense was fearsome the last couple of years. Obviously took a hit last year in the COVID era with a lot of guys opting out. So to be able to bring a lot of those guys back and then add a guy like Newsome, that would be huge for New England if that's the case. And speaking of Newsome, actually I've got him going next at 16 to the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously the Cardinals need to protect Kyler Murray. But in this instance, I think their defensive needs outweigh the ability to protect Murray because I think he's being a mobile quarterback. He can get himself out of positions that other quarterbacks normally wouldn't be able to. So I've actually got Greg Newsome going to Arizona to really improve that defense and really make them a contender in the NFC West.
I like that pick. I went, and I'm going to.
All right, Joe, who do you got with Arizona?
I got Gregory Rousseau, the edge rusher from Miami, and I want your thoughts on that pick.
I mean, it's the same as my pick. It's about shoring up that defense and really making them a force to be reckoned with in the NFC West. So
yep.
I don't think it's a bad pick. Scott, we got you back?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Stop. Yeah, this driving thing's a pain. I went. I gave Kyler Murray another weapon. I'm going off the board here. I'm going running back. I'm going to Clemson. I'm going Travis Etienne to Arizona right here.
Ooh.
Wow. I looked at most mock drafts, and I'll tell you what, I'm shocked I didn't see him going in the first round. At least the mock drafts I've looked at. Are you guys shocked by that? I think it was the Sporting News I looked at.
So you looked at one?
Yeah, I looked at one. I looked at a few. Go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, you kind of have to look at more than one to get a good indication of where some of these guys are going.
Yeah, but even the one, it took that for me. Like, what? How do you not have him going in the first round? That just makes no sense to me. But
because over the last few years, running backs have not been a priority in the first round. Short career span. They are a lot of times a dime a dozen. You know, you can plug a lot of different running backs into certain systems and they succeed. So, the premium of putting that kind of money on a first round running back pick just isn't there anymore. I mean, you don't see it very much anymore. So it's not so much a surprise as more of a, okay, yeah, it makes sense. Maybe he's a late first, early second round pick in a lot of instances, but it's not a surprise that you looked at one mock draft and he wasn't there. I mean,
yeah,
you kind of look at more than one mock draft to kind of get a feel for where some of these guys are going. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by it, but it's a good pick. I think Arizona really could use a running back to really help Kyler Murray out a little bit more. But yeah, Travis Etienne in the Cardinal uniform would not be a bad look. All right, next up would be the Las Vegas Raiders sitting at 17. For me, they're all in on Derek Carr this year. They are going to have to see what they can get out of him, see if he really is the quarterback for them for the next few years. And for me, it just, once again, it goes back to being able to protect these guys and keep them upright to really see what you have. So for me, at 17 with the Vegas Raiders, I'm going with Tevin Jenkins, the offensive lineman out of Oklahoma State. Joe, who do you got there for the Vegas Raiders?
I actually got Kwity Paye going there. I actually got him dropping down.
It's not, I mean, once again, it's not so much a matter of him dropping down. It's a matter of teams' needs, what they're looking for. So once again, not a testament to Paye's ability, but that would be a pretty good pick for Vegas. Obviously, losing Khalil Mack a couple years ago to that trade to Chicago, they need to kind of shore up that rushing attack as far as getting to the quarterback. And when you're playing in the AFC West, when you've got Patrick Mahomes and you've got Justin Herbert, among others, that you're having to chase down, having an edge rusher is pretty key. So not a bad pick there with Kwity Paye going to the Vegas Raiders.
I think this is their head coach's type of player. I'm trying to think. Yeah, this is their head coach's type of defensive player. He's going to do good in that system. The Gruden grinders, as I like to call him, he's one of them.
I was going to say, you remember who the head coach of the Raiders is, Joe?
I know. It completely left my mind for a second. I don't know why.
Oh, boy. So Joe has Kwity Paye going to the Vegas Raiders. Scott, who do you have going to Vegas?
I have the offensive lineman out of Oklahoma State, Tevin Jenkins, going to the Raiders.
And that's exactly who I had as well. Once again, shoring up that offensive line and giving Derek Carr some protection to really see what he can offer Vegas this year and see if they have to go to a quarterback next year or draft somebody later this year. Who really knows? All right, next up is Miami again. They're sitting at number 18. I'm keeping the Alabama tradition going and building Alabama Souther in Miami. I'm going with Najee Harris, the running back out of Alabama, to pair up with Devonta Smith and Tua Tagovailoa to really I'm gonna butcher Tua's name the rest of my life, but I got Najee Harris going to Miami at number 18.
That's a good pick, Joe. What do you got?
I got Jeremiah Osu. I can't pronounce his last name. It's sad, but that would be a pick for me. I think Miami needs to do a lot of things, but in a sense, they're not that far away. And if they build this draft right, they could be in the playoff spot next year.
That's not a bad pick. I actually stayed in the city of Miami and went to the U. I have them picking defensive end Jalen Phillips from the Hurricanes right there.
Another guy that fits the profile of a New England Patriots-esque type of team, because as we're seeing, Miami is turning into Patriots South with Flores being their head coach and bringing in a lot of their former players and that same kind of mindset. So I don't think that's a bad pick right there. Keep a hometown kid there as well. Build up that fan base that's there. I mean, that's a big thing that a lot of people don't recognize. That's the reason the Rams went after Jared Goff. They wanted to make a splash locally when they moved to LA, and they got an LA kid. So it wouldn't be a big surprise for Miami to go that route as well. All right, number 19, we've got the Washington football team. Obviously, they are having some quarterback issues themselves. Nobody really available at this point in time in the first round, and this is a pick that might be ripe for trading to get some more picks to kind of help them build their team. But in my instance, I think they cannot pass up a guy like Micah Parsons in my draft. He's there. And as much as Riverboat Ron likes to gamble and maybe wants to go with an offensive option or maybe trading that pick, having a guy like Parsons there to really shore up that really good Washington defense is just something you can't pass up. So in my draft, I've got Micah Parsons going to the Washington football team at 19. What do you guys have at that point?
I have Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech, going there.
That's not a bad pick. I actually gave whoever Washington's quarterback is a weapon. I went to Florida with wide receiver Kadarius Toney.
And that's the thing. We don't know who their quarterback is going to be because obviously Alex Smith isn't there anymore. I think they brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick, I believe, and he might be a guy that's going to mentor a guy like Tyler Heineke. Maybe he's the next guy up there. Who knows? But yeah, having somebody that he can throw to, whether it's Fitzpatrick or Heineke or somebody else, is a big, big deal. The Darrisaw pick for you, Joe, is not a bad pick either. And obviously shoring up that offensive line and protecting whoever it is at that quarterback position, a good pick as well. I don't think you can go wrong there. I think at that point you're really looking for the best player available because Washington does have a lot of spots to fill. And once again, that might be a spot where someone trades up and Washington gains some more picks. So we'll have to definitely watch that one as well. All right, let's get to number 20. This is the Chicago Bears. For Scott, the Bears have already traded up. They moved up to the pick for Carolina. So now that's going to be Carolina at number 20 for them. Scott, who do you have the Panthers picking at number 20?
I have the Panthers taking the offensive the lineman out of Virginia Tech, Christian Darrisaw.
All righty. Protecting Sam Darnold at that point, or Teddy Bridgewater, whoever gets the nod there. Joe, who do you have going to the Bears at 20?
I got Kadarius Toney, wide receiver out of Florida, going to Chicago.
They need somebody to pair with Allen Robinson for sure. So that's not a bad pick at all. For me, I go with the cornerback out of South Carolina, J.C. Horn. They don't really have a QB in that spot to pick. As much as they don't want to go into the season with Andy Dalton, I think you continue to fix that defense. You make that a priority. Obviously the 85 Bears won on defense. So if you get that defense fixed and really rolling, maybe next year you get a quarterback that you can instill into that system and really start rolling. And who knows, maybe there's still a potential for a quarterback to be traded to the Bears in the offseason after the draft. So there's still a lot of potential there. So if you can get that defense shored up and bring in a quarterback before the season starts, that might be the best route to go for the Bears. So that's why I've got J.C. Horn going at number 20 to the Bears. Number 21, you got the Indianapolis Colts. For me, I have to look at, once again, protecting the quarterback. I went with Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. Honestly, I think the Colts feel incredibly lucky that he falls to them at 21 because there are a lot of offensive line talents. They could wait a little bit longer to shore it up, but I also don't see a whole lot else around that would make Indianapolis go, yeah, we got to pick somebody else. I think keep that offensive line strong and really see what you get in the later rounds. So I went with Vera Tucker at number 21 for the Colts.
I got Tevin Jackson, offensive tackle, Oklahoma State.
And Scott, who do you got going to the Colts at 21? All right, we'll have to come back to that one. Let's go on to pick number 22, the Tennessee Titans. Who do you have going to Tennessee at 22, Joe?
Sam Cosmi, offensive tackle of Texas.
Okay, a guy I didn't even have on my board. That's a very interesting pick. Why did you go with that for Tennessee at 22?
Tennessee, I think, needs more help on the offensive line. I mean, in my mind, you need to, of course, protect Tannehill, but you're really protecting the running back in Henry at this point. So, yeah, I think this is a good pick for them. Could they trade up? Maybe, but this is where I have him going now.
See, for me, I think they've got what they need on offense. They've got the Thunder on offense with Derrick Henry. Obviously, he was one of the best running backs last year, and he didn't have much of an offensive line. So yeah, it'd be great to kind of build up on that. But for me, I think they need some more pop on defense. So I got them going with Azeez Olurie from Georgia, the edge rusher, 9.5 sacks last year, 15 total in the last 2 years. I think Tennessee needs that. They need to be able to put pressure on guys like a Patrick Mahomes, like a Lamar Jackson, and they didn't have that last year. So picking up Uhuliari, or whatever his name is, I feel bad. I need to pronounce that a little bit better. But getting Azeez out of Georgia is probably, in my mind, the guy that makes the most sense for Tennessee at number 22. All right, moving on to number 23, we got the Jets. That's the pick from Seattle in the Jamal Adams trade. For me, I've got Trayvon Mooring from TCU, the safety, going there. Basically, what do you do with the pick from Adams? Well, you get the guy to replace him. And Mooring is the guy that I've got going to New York from that pick from Seattle. Who do you have going at number 23?
J.C. Horn.
Okay. Once again, another back-end pick, someone that could replace a Jamal Adams. So not a bad pick there. I like that. All right, number 24. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, Ben Roethlisberger coming back this year. Who do you have going to the Steelers at 24?
I got Najee Harris, the running back out of Alabama, going to Pittsburgh. They need someone. They need another running back because James Conner didn't work there outside of the 1 year. So I think he could fit that system. I don't know what you think, but I think he could.
Well, I've got the fact that Pittsburgh needs a running back. I think you're right on the nose there. They need to get a running back in there to really shore up that running game. And for me, Najee Harris is already gone. He's gone to Miami, but I went with Travis Etienne. He's a little bit slower, but he's a guy that can make the cuts that are needed. He's a guy that's sure-handed out of the backfield. He can catch the ball, and that's something that Pittsburgh hasn't done a whole lot of recently, being able to dump the ball off to their running back. So I've got Travis Etienne going to Pittsburgh at 24. But either way, a running back has to be the move that they go with there, because there's not a whole lot of high-end offensive line talent at that point, and I think that's who they're going to go with. Jacksonville at number 25. This pick is from the Rams as part of one of the deals that they made with them. I've got offensive lineman from Ohio State, Wyatt Davis, going to Jacksonville. He's one of those guys that Urban Meyer knows. He knows that he needs to protect his franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. Davis is familiar with the systems that Urban Meyer is likely to run there in Jacksonville. So at that point, they're just doing their due diligence and protecting their franchise quarterback by going with Wyatt Davis.
I actually went defense here, and I went Christian Barmore from Alabama, the defensive tackle.
Once again, Jacksonville's got the number one pick for a reason. They have a lot of holes to fill, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So was there a thought in your mind to go defense in that pick? I mean, I know to protect your number one asset, but not at all?
No, not at all, because, yes, defense is important, but if your quarterback, your franchise number one overall quarterback, gets injured, we saw what happened with Joe Burrow last year. I mean, we really did. Joe Burrow had Cincinnati playing well. Yes, they weren't winning every game or what have you, but they were playing really well. And now look at the setback that they have because Joe Burrow got injured, because he couldn't be protected in Cincinnati. So if you've got the ability to bring somebody in that's going to protect your number one overall pick in Trevor Lawrence, I think you almost have to go that route, because you don't want to be in that same situation. I mean, Jacksonville is not Cincinnati. Cincinnati has a rabid fan base. Jacksonville does not. So you bring in somebody that's exciting as Trevor Lawrence, and then you have him go down 6, 7, 8 games into the season. That's a death knell for your franchise, and they're not going to allow that to happen. I don't think it's a bad pick, but I think in this instance, you have to go with shoring up that offensive line. Okay.
And you can find diamonds in the rough on offense for your offensive line though later in the draft. Don't the linemen really don't go away no matter what round it really is. You can get one in the last round and they can be a diamond. So
yes, but do you want to entrust your franchise quarterback with the potential of a diamond in a rough when you have the ability to draft a guy in the first round that's very likely someone that's going to succeed in the NFL?
Yeah, I get that too, but I'm sticking with my guns here.
Once again, I'm not saying it's a bad pick. I'm just saying that in my mind, I'm not going to sit there and wait to see if I can get a guy that might pan out versus a guy that likely will pan out. So
Okay.
it's still a crapshoot. It's still a crapshoot. Don't get me wrong. But in my mind, I go with him. So that moves us on to number 26, the Cleveland Browns. You went with Barmore to Jacksonville. I'm going with him to Cleveland because I think Cleveland needs somebody like an edge rush or like the defensive lineman Alabama to really put pressure on those opposing quarterbacks because Cleveland pushed Kansas City around a lot. They pushed him to the brink, but they could not get to Patrick Mahomes. And bringing a guy like Barmore might help them out this year. So I've got him going to the Cleveland Browns. Who do you have going to the Browns at number 26?
I got Azeez Ojulari going to the Cleveland Browns.
Once again, not a bad pick there at all. I have him going to Tennessee earlier in the draft. But once again, it's another edge rusher that can put pressure on a quarterback. And that's really what some of these latter teams in the draft are going to need because a lot of times that's the difference between them beating a Kansas City and losing to a Kansas City. Can they put pressure on Patrick Mahomes? Can they put pressure on Lamar Jackson? We saw what Tampa Bay did to Kansas City by putting pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Now you got to look at some of these other teams like a Cleveland, like a Baltimore, like a Tennessee, like a Buffalo that didn't really have that last year. And now this is the chance for them to potentially get those guys to be able to compete with the Kansas Cities. All right, number 27, we got the aforementioned Baltimore Ravens. I went with Jalen Phillips, another edge rusher. Once again, still playing into that mindset. They lost Matt Judon and Yannick Ngakoue. So this pick for me is an absolute must. They had to get an edge rusher. They had to get the best guy available. And for me at that point, it's Jalen Phillips.
Well, I got the edge rusher out of Texas, and I butchered his last name even writing it down, Wag. So if I may need to look up his last name, first name I think Joseph. I forgot. If you can help me out there, that's the only one that my handwriting's awful. I didn't realize how awful it really was.
I mean, I need a little bit more to go on.
Shoot. Joseph Casale or something out of Texas, the edge rusher. It's well, I can help you with the spelling here.
Oh, Joseph Asai?
Yeah, Asai.
Yeah, Joseph Asai.
Thank you. I ruined that last name now, so thank you for helping me there.
Right.
Joseph Asai, they needed an edge rusher as well in Baltimore, so I feel like he was the best available.
But, I mean, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple of guys ranked a little bit higher than him that possibly could have gone, but not a bad pick. Once again, just going back to that mindset that you need an edge rusher to compete in that AFC division, that AFC conference. So you got to get the guys that are going to put pressure on the quarterback. Number 28, you've got the New Orleans Saints. Once again, I went with an edge rusher as well because that's a position that New Orleans really needed to get after Tom Brady. They had opportunities in that game to really end Tampa Bay's run. I think at one point they picked Brady off 3 straight times and couldn't do much. And yes, you sit there and go, well, that means they probably need some help on offense. But I still think it's more of a matter of getting that pressure on the quarterback. So I went with Jason Owe out of Penn State. So get that edge rusher in there that can put pressure on Brady and just keep building up that defense in New Orleans because I think they're going to be okay offensively. And if you can get that defense to be scary, that's really what's going to make them for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I got Jalen Phillips, the edge rusher out of Miami, going there.
Yeah, once again, just now we're at that point where we're talking defense, and this is where a lot of these teams at the bottom are having to look at. They have offenses, but they really need to shore up their defense. All right, now we're getting to the pick that you're excited about. That's number 29. That's the Green Bay Packers. And obviously, they're not going to go with anything offensive. So who do you have going to Green Bay at number 29?
Ooh, I don't know about that. I got Jalen Mayfield out of Michigan, the offensive tackle.
Okay. Protecting Aaron Rodgers, definitely a good thing. That's if Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay.
Well, and that's what I wanted to ask you.
We'll talk about that in a second. We'll wrap up the mock draft and we'll get into some of those conversations as well. Okay. For me, this is the year that they finally actually draft somebody that might be a weapon for Aaron Rodgers. I look at Terrace Marshall Jr. out of LSU, the wide receiver. I think they give him somebody to pair with Devontae Adams. And they finally, after years and years and years of Aaron Rodgers complaining about not getting weapons, they go out and they draft a quote-unquote weapon. They get Marshall Jr. out of LSU. Yeah, he definitely played second fiddle to Jamar Chase, but he was still a dynamic receiver there. I like what he can bring to the table, and I think Aaron Rodgers will be happy, and maybe it'll placate him for a year and allow them to build up his draft capital or his trade capital. And maybe next year going into the offseason, that might be the year that Aaron Rodgers gets traded. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. At number 30, we got the last three picks here. Number 30, we have the Buffalo Bills. For me, I think they need to shore up that back end of the D. Patrick Mahomes kind of torched them a little bit last year in the playoffs, and I think they're going to go with some familiarity. Sean McDermott coached his father, and now he's the coach in Buffalo. I think they go with Asante Samuel Jr., the cornerback out of Florida State.
I got Jason Noah, edge rusher, Penn State going there. They need to shore up that defense. And an edge rusher, you always want to get pressure on the quarterback, right? We always talk about that.
You do. You do. I think they've got some of that, though, and that's why I think they need to shore up the back end more than anything else. I think they did put pressure on Mahomes in those playoff games, but he was able to scramble and throw the deep ball, and that's where a little bit of where Buffalo was lacking. But once again, to your point, yeah, you need to be able to get to the quarterback, and OA might be a guy that can go about doing that. All right, Baltimore, they get another pick here at the end of the first round after the trade to Kansas City. Orlando Brown going to Kansas City, and for me, I think at this point you have to get the replacement for Orlando Brown. You have to go Alex Leatherwood, the offensive lineman out of Alabama. Yes, you could go offense here. They could go after a wide receiver, but I don't think there's anybody at the end of that first round that makes you go, huh? At least as far as Baltimore's sake is concerned. So I think you have to go with Alex Leatherwood, give yourself protection for Lamar Jackson, and just get the cheaper version of Orlando Brown.
I have to agree with you on that one. That's the one. It seems like, Wags, we haven't agreed on picks at all today. I mean, yeah, maybe a few. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, that was obvious, but I like that we're kind of differing here.
Yeah, I think it makes it very interesting because we're not entirely sure where these teams are going to go. And that's the beauty of the draft this year is you just don't know who's going where or what trades or potential might happen. All right, finally, the last pick in the first round goes to the defending champions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have signed pretty much every single person that was on that team last year. The one exception, Antonio Brown. And that's why at my 32 pick, I've got them going with Kadarius Toney, the wide receiver out of Florida. Yes, maybe Antonio Brown re-signs there and they don't really need a wide receiver, but if he doesn't, Toney could be a nice replacement for them. It's more so that they're going to go with a guy that could be versus a need be at that pick. Obviously, bringing everybody back. They don't need people, but a guy like Toney might be a good project for them, especially at the end of the first round.
Yeah, I'm going with the defensive tackle out of Washington here, Levi Oyureich. I just think, bringing back everybody, you don't need anybody on offense. If you want to shore up something, shore up that defense. So I got that defensive tackle out of Washington going to Tampa Bay.
All righty. Not bad at all. Not bad at all there. So that is our first round, our mock draft for the draft coming up here on Thursday. First round coverage on ESPN. Make sure you check that out. Let's talk a little bit about the potential trades that might happen still. We've talked a lot about really three quarterbacks that were rumored to be dealt at some point this offseason. It looks like a lot of them are not going to happen, but I kind of want to get your guys' takes on where guys like Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers, where they sit right now, and if there potentially could be a move that's made either before the draft, during the draft, or before the regular season starts involving any of those three quarterbacks.
Scott, go ahead if you can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Sorry I was gone so long. I literally just witnessed a road rage incident at Highway 40 in Boone's Crossing. Like, literally, a guy got out and started pounding on the guy's car in front of him. It was pretty crazy. So that's why I've been off for a little bit. Yeah, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I'll tell you about it off air. But going back to your question, I don't see any of those three guys getting moved this offseason. I think it's very possible next offseason all three of them are moved, but I think all three of them stay where they're at least for the 2021 season.
I think they all stay where they are, and I'm going to go one further. I still think Seattle can win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's just that type of quarterback. He has two guys locked up in Lockett, and I'm trying to think of the other receiver there. But
DK Metcalf?
DK Metcalf. Thank you very much there, Wags. But, yeah, I think he can win a Super Bowl with that tandem alone. What he needs to do, what they need to do with the draft, like we've already went through, they need to shore up that offensive line. You know, we hear all the time, Russell Wilson shouldn't be running for his life, this and that. Well, do something about it then. If you want him to stay past this year, because that is a possibility too. If you want him to stay past this year, get him some help. When I mean help, I don't mean just wide receivers. I don't mean tight ends. I don't mean running backs. Give the guy some time to think. So, but Aaron Rodgers, there's been rumors out there that he's not happy and the Packers are not happy with him. So I could see this ending badly for Green Bay, but I don't see it being this offseason.
Well, Scott's talked about this a lot in the past. You know, the whole Aaron Rodgers situation is very reminiscent of the Brett Favre situation. And honestly, I don't think it's as bad as the Brett Favre situation. I think Aaron Rodgers, realizes and recognizes, because he was a part of that Brett Favre saga, that he doesn't want it to end like that. Now, does that mean it might end? Yes, it might end, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think. And going back to the Russell Wilson thing, it's not a matter of him leaving Seattle because he can't win a Super Bowl or they don't think they can win a Super Bowl. I think it's a matter of them looking at it and going, okay, our window is closing. So what do we got to do to get the next window open? And that may mean trading Russell Wilson for a bunch of picks. It may mean they have to go through a year or two of rebuilding, but that might be the reason why after next year they trade a Russell Wilson. It's not because they don't believe he can win a Super Bowl with the team. It's more of a matter of the window's closing. What can we do to move on and get the next window to open? Because we don't want to waste Russell Wilson's career the rest of the way.
Can I be totally honest with you? The Russell Wilson thing, I literally think it has less to do with football and more with the fact that he wants to be in a bigger market and be talked about more and be kind of the face of the league, which he's never really been playing in Seattle, like, or someplace like that. And some of that might have to do with his wife wanting to kind of get back out in the spotlight. But I think that has more to do with it than football, to be totally honest with you.
I think you're 100% right. You know, it's the whole LeBron thing in a sense. You know, he was in Cleveland and then he went to Miami because he wanted to be in a bigger market. Well, then he went back to Cleveland because he felt like he had an obligation to win a championship there. And what happens when he won a championship in Cleveland? Oh, hey, I'm gonna go to LA and get started going there. So yeah, it's totally what it is. It's, you know, you've got a superstar wife that doesn't get the same sort of recognition in Seattle. She wants to be in a market, and he wants to be in a market where they can leverage their stardom to be somebody or a couple that people look at and go, okay, I know who they are and what they're about, and I'm going to go to their games. I'm not sitting there saying Seattle doesn't have a bunch of fans that go to the games, but they're not the fans that Russell Wilson and his wife are going to want to be around, in a sense. Not that they don't want to be around the fans, but like, it's not the celebrities. You're not getting the big time names going to those games. You're getting fans, but you're not getting the names. So I think Scott's right. I think he nailed it right on the head. It's not a matter of his ability or his football. It's a matter of him wanting to go to that bigger market and really make a name for himself, even bigger than the name he's already got.
Would you go as far as to compare this to a LeBron James situation, going to a bigger market to?
Did you not just
No. I heard what you said, but to set him up after football. Like, what if he wants to go into acting? What if he wants to go into this or that?
Well, I mean,
that's where I was going.
You know, he's been in those State Farm commercials, or he has he is that same mold. He is LeBron James at the NFL.
Right.
That's exactly what it is. So, yeah, I mean, that's why I compared it to the LeBron James thing. He wants to be that big name in a big city, not just now, but also for his post-career.
Okay. It makes total sense. But let's just kind of put a prediction out there. What is that big market? Where do you see him going?
Scott?
If I had, and it's going to come down to, again, what happens in the draft. If I had to guess, I would say Chicago.
Wags?
Yeah. I mean, once again, it does come down to what happens in the draft this year. If the Bears do make that big move and get a Trey Lance, then no, he's not going to Chicago because they're going to roll with Trey Lance for a few years, unless they're drafting Trey Lance as a precursor to trading him to Seattle for Russell Wilson. That's the whole thing. Like, it just depends on what happens on Thursday. And honestly, I think this is the question that we need to put a pin in until after the draft, because I think you'll get a better indication of the direction that a lot of these teams are going. So this actually might be a question we need to put a pin in and come back to next week to talk about, because after the draft's over, at least the first round, I think we'll have a better picture and a better idea of the direction a lot of these teams are going. And regardless of how the season plays out, I think that's going to give us a good indication. So Chicago definitely probably is the top of the list because they were the big name in this offseason that was trying to go after him. But we'll have to see what happens from there. Once again, the draft is coming up on Thursday night, ESPN first round. And you got second and third round coverage on Friday, the rest of the rounds on Saturday. It's always a big day. You got to have people there again this year, but they're also still going to be doing some virtual stuff as well. Are you guys excited for the fact that we're going to have a little bit more normalcy this year with the NFL draft? People are going to be there, not as big as in the past, but is this another stepping stone to being back to normal?
Oh, it absolutely is. And it's cool that it's going to be back and it's going to be in Cleveland, because Cleveland fans are pretty excited right now. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of excitement and a lot of attitude at that draft, even though it's not going to be at full capacity.
Yeah, and I like the fact that it's outside. I understand why it's outside because of the COVID situation, but I'm wondering, once things do get back to normal, could they consider doing things like this? Depending on where you have the draft. Like if you have it in LA, have it outside. Or if you have it in, depending on the climate, of course. But could you guys see that happening? Once we get back to full normal? Yeah, if they have it in warm cities, yeah, they can definitely do that. And I think it brings even more atmosphere when you are outside doing it that way.
I'm 100% in agreement on that. And obviously, I think with the Vegas draft, that they're wanting to have gondolas and them doing everything, bringing guys to the stage across the water and all that stuff. So yeah, outdoors if the weather's right. I think they do this also. They were talking about Chicago as well. Yeah, it would be a little bit chillier, but they did the same sort of thing in Chicago. So yeah, I think it gives you a little bit more of an opportunity. You can do a lot more stuff outside. It definitely puts you into that mindset of football by being outside. But also, if you get it back in New York, how do you not have it at Radio City Music Hall? So it depends on the venue, it depends on the city, it depends on the time of year, all that kind of stuff. There are a lot of factors, but I think you almost have to, since they're now traveling with it, I think you do have to see how you can cater it to the areas that you're going to. An area that's famous for something where you can hold the draft is probably the way they go. If you've got a big indoor facility this place is known for, you're going to go indoors. But if they got this, if you got Shaw Park in Chicago, you're going to do that because that's a big, big thing. It also has to do with the view as well. You go to LA, you're going to try and find a way to make sure that the LA view is in view. You go to Texas, maybe you have it down, and I'm not saying this is the case, but maybe you have it down in San Antonio at the Alamo or something, or the Riverwalk in San Antonio. Like you kind of have to pick and choose depending on which city you go to. As Scott was saying, it depends on where you're going, it depends on the weather, and it depends on what the city is known for. You can kind of cater it to that city and really make it a unique experience year in and year out.
Okay, thanks, guys. I mean, I could also see this, and I know you want to have it in Radio City Music Hall. What if they wanted to go in New York and have it all out, have it in MSG? I know it's not a football venue per se, but if they wanted to go all out with it, have it in one of the most iconic arenas in sports history.
I don't think MSG is the best place to hold a draft. I think Radio City Music Hall is synonymous with the draft in New York. So going anywhere outside of that, I don't know. I mean, I get the premise. You know, MSG is an iconic arena, but is it a draft eligible area to be hosted in? So I don't think it's the case.
Okay.
No, I don't think so either. And think about this, guys. Think of how cool it'll be in a few years. We have an outside draft. You have an outside draft with the arch in the backdrop, Keener Plaza, that whole area, as the St. Louis Jaguars host the NFL draft.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
You know what? That'd be perfect. And in the background, you'll see a second Stanley Cup banner, another 12th World Series banner, and oh, hey, guess what? You'll probably see the first MLS championship banner in history as well when they are hosting that NFL draft, because you got STL City SC coming as well, and they're going to be the first team they're going to be one of those teams that wins it in their first year. So we'll have a championship-esque NFL draft experience here when the St. Louis Jaguars are hosting the NFL draft here in a few years. Gentlemen, great stuff. Scott, we'll get your final picks and post those on our Facebook page so everybody can see who we've picked and argue again amongst us as to who made the better picks and which ones are idiotic. We'll let our fans decide that. Make sure you guys come back tonight for Crunch Time Nightly on Facebook and YouTube. We will unveil our winners for our 800 likes contest. And honestly, we're getting really close to having to do another contest because we're almost to 900 likes and we're very close to 1,000 follows on Facebook as well. So as soon as we reach those marks, we'll do another giveaway. So make sure you tune in tonight at 9 o'clock when we unveil our winners for the 800 like contest that we had just about a week ago. And anything else that you guys want to get out there before we head out today?
No, that pretty much does it, man. It's been great. Can't wait to see what actually happens at the draft, how wrong we are.
I think we had a lot of picks right last year, if I remember correctly. So I don't think we're going to be totally wrong. I think we're going to have more of them correct than you think.
I think we will too. Yeah, we all have differed on a decent amount of picks, but it should be fun to watch and see who got them right, who got them wrong, and who the one or two guys that are way off the board that get drafted in the first round actually go. We want to thank our sponsors, St. Louis Sports Co. and Proscape, for sponsoring us again today. And once again, make sure you come back at 9 o'clock tonight for Crunch Time Nightly. We have that Monday through Friday from 9 to 10. We got some special guests lined up for this week, as well as upcoming weeks as well. So make sure you pay attention and look out for those as well. For Scott, for Joe, I am Wags. Thank you for joining us and have a great rest of your Monday.